Okay, so scientists study the natural world. Very good. What else did we learn, Jacob? Last time we were here.
We learned about molecules and stuff.
Molecules. What do we call molecules in anything that takes up space? What do we call that? Anybody?
Matter.
Matter. Very good. Matter. Thank you, Ashley. So that we call that matter. All right. So we also learned about matter. Okay. Very good. How many types of matter are there? Let's go with Bobby. Two. What are they?
Non-living and living.
Very good. All right. So we talked about that as well. We talked about living matter. Okay. And then we also talked about non-living matter. Good. Good. There it is. All right. So, okay. Now, what do both of these have in common?
Molecules.
Molecules. That's right. Okay. Remember, molecules, okay, are what they're made out of. Okay. And what is a molecule made out of?
Atoms.
Atoms. Very good. Good job. What did you guys think about the quiz on Edpuzzle?
Oh, on Edpuzzle is good.
Good. But your other quiz was a little funnier, huh? Now, one more thing. Okay, what is the main difference between living and non-living things? There's one more thing. What are living things made out of? What molecules form what?
Cells.
Cells. Very good. So that's the key from last time. Okay, so you guys should have known. Whoa. Okay, you should have known that cells. Okay, that's the biggest, that's the key. So atoms form molecules, right? Okay, and then molecules form cells, and then cells form living tissues and matter, okay? And then non-living things, they're just things that are made out of molecules, like water. It's made out of H2O molecules. Very good. Now, why do we need to know about matter and when we're studying the natural world? Emily, what do you think?
Because the plants have matter.
The plants are, well, what's the natural world? What's the natural world made out of? Think about it. It's not that hard. You got it. What is the natural world made out of?
Living things.
Good, living things. Good. And what else?
And non-living.
Exactly. So that's why we need to understand, in order to understand the natural world, right? If we're trying to understand it, scientists study the natural world. In order to understand it, we have to remember that the living and non-living, that is the natural world, right? Okay, the natural world is living and non-living things put together. Now, what do scientists actually study when they're studying the natural world? Okay, we talked about it last time, and if you watch the video from yesterday, I made it more clearer. What is the main thing, okay, that we study, that in order, like a good scientist, this is what they study in the natural world. What is it? Starts with a R. What do you guys think? What do they study? Good scientists are always studying what?
Relationships.
Relationships. Very good. Relationships. That's the number one thing. Okay, so that's why I'm going to take this little arrow right here, this little my pen right here, and they study relationships between what?
Non-living and living matter.
Exactly. So that's the big takeaway I want you guys to understand. Okay, if you're a good scientist, you're studying relationships. Like none of you guys, like if you heard of a scientist like saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to study, you know, how your weight is affected by your color of your hair. Would any good scientist do that?
Oh,
No, because there's no what?
relationship.
There's no relationship, right? Your hair color doesn't affect how much you weigh. So that's why a scientist wouldn't study that, because there's no relationship. what did what in your reading from chapter 1 section 2, what did people think was causing the maggots to come to get on the food?
The like meat and like the grain and the cow dung, because it was kind of like a death, a supplement.
Yeah, so like they had meat, right? And then they had meat, and then in the meat they saw little maggots start to grow, right? Where did people think the maggots came from?
Flies.
No, that's not what they thought at first.
That it was just arising from the meat.
That it was just spontaneously rising magic. It was like magic, right? That exactly. Good job. Who said that?
Annabella.
Exactly. They thought it was just magic, like these little maggots were just rising from the meat. But eventually, some scientists studied a relationship in the natural world to figure out where did maggots really come from?
Flies.
From the flies, exactly. When a fly lands on your meat, right? So here's a fly, it lands on your meat. What does it lay?
Eggs.
Eggs, and then the eggs hatch on your food, and that's where the maggots come from, right? And so what did they do to study, to figure this out? What did they design?
Experiment.
An experiment. That's right. Okay, got it? So ultimately, when we're studying the relationships between things, in order to do that, we have to design experiments. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now here's an experiment for you guys. Okay, so we have 3 groups here. Okay, we have 3 groups. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and what do you guys want? Tomato, beans, which one? What do you want to grow? Tomato plants or bean plants?
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Okay, so we're gonna put tomato into these pots. Okay, now, I want to study the relationship between plants and how they grow and water. Okay? So now what is your hypothesis? What do you think is your hypothesis? Okay, how does water affect how these plants are going to grow? What do you think? So here are my 2 groups, right? All right, so what do you guys think is gonna happen? This one, how much water am I giving it? Group A.
Nothing.
Nothing. How much water am I giving the plants in group B?
Does that say 70 or 20?
I think it says 70.
Yeah.
Good. So which one's getting water? A or B?
B.
B. So what is your hypothesis? Before we even do this experiment, okay, what is your hypothesis?
Plants need water to grow.
All right, perfect. So let's write that down, okay? So hypothesis. Okay. Plants grow because of the water. And so now what do we do now to test our hypothesis?
Form an experiment.
Very good. We designed an experiment. Right, here we go. Very good. And now let's go ahead and take a picture. Let's get our experiment here. Here it is. Here's our experiment. Make it a little smaller. Okay, here it is. Boom. So now there's our experiment. So how did we design our experiment, guys? Adam, what is in our experiment?
On how much water you would give.
Yeah, but what are the parts of the experiment? What do you see? What are the parts in this experiment? What do you see? What are we giving the plants?
Water.
Both are getting water?
No, not A.
No. What else are the plants getting?
Sunlight.
Good. Well, not sunlight, but what is it?
Light.
Light. Very good. Now, are they both getting the same amount of light?
Yes.
Okay, so what is light then in our experiment? Anybody?
A variable.
It is a variable, but which one? Because there's different types of variables.
The independent variable.
Independent.
The independent variable?
No, the dependent because the water is the independent, right?
No. What's the light? See, that's why we're taking this class again, right? Say, everybody say it with me. Control variable. Say it with me.
Control.
Control variable. The light is a control variable because both groups are getting how much light?
Same.
The same. We don't want to change the amount of light because that is are we studying light in our relationship? Yes or no?
So,
No.
No.
What are we studying in our relationship?
The water.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me get a different color here. We are studying, all right? We are studying how water and the relationship on with what?
plants.
Plant growth. Very good, right? So the relationship that we are studying is how water, right, is affecting the what?
Plant growth.
Plant growth. And what kind of relationship do you think this is going to be? Is it going to be a positive relationship or a negative relationship? Is it going to help it grow or not?
Positive.
It's going to be positive, right? And so now do we have water in our experiment?
Yeah, for one.
Yes.
Good. And then do we have a plant that's ready to grow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's look at our experiment. Let's see what's going to happen. All right, boom. So now day 9, day 10, day 13, day 14. What is happening to the plant in group B?
It's
It's
growing.
growing.
It's growing. And what's happening to the plant in group A?
It's not growing.
It's
Yeah,
not growing because what is group A? What is the plant not getting here?
Water.
Water, exactly, right? And so you guys need to understand this concept of how to design an experiment. Exactly. And so let me take a picture of this guy here and then let's add it to our notes. All right. So here we go. All right. Let's copy that. And here we go. Okay. And then let's put it in here. So now here's our data supposedly. Here we go, right? So now what is the water in our experiment then? What kind of variable? What kind of variable? And you should have known this in your reading.
Responding. Variable.
Oh, so the water is responding to something?
Oh, the plant is responding to something.
Exactly. So the plant growth is our, okay, in your notes, I believe they called it the responding variable or something like that.
Right.
Right? But what did they, in your classes, usually they talk about it in terms of a DV. Oh, hold on, let me get this here. Place image. All right, cool. So the plant growth is the responding variable, but we're gonna call it the DV. What's DV stand for?
Dependent variable.
Dependent variable. Very good. The plant growth depends on what?
Water.
How much
The
water?
water, exactly. So what's the water in our experiment?
Independent variable.
It's the independent variable. Very good. And so now what would our data look like, guys? If we graphed it. Right? And so you probably didn't learn this in class. But the way we study relationships is by taking our data and graphing it. So let's put water in the bottom. That's our independent variable. And let's put plant growth on the y-axis. That's our dependent variable. Okay. And so now what happens to the plants as they get more water? What do you think is happening? Is the line going to go up or down?
Up.
Exactly. Right. And so as the water goes up, the plant grows what?
Taller.
Taller and taller and taller. And so that's how we know that our experiment, okay, we know that the relationship between water and plant is positive. So in every single experiment, guys, every single one, we're always going to have these things. We're going to have a control variables, we're going to have independent variables, and we're going to have dependent variables. Exactly. And remember, the IV and the DV, that's the relationship that we're studying. You understand? Water, is it a non-living thing?
Yes.
No, water is a non-living thing. So we're studying the relationship between a non-living thing and what's plants?
The living.
The living thing. See, and so it goes back to this idea over here that scientists study relationships. And what do we use to study those relationships? Experiments. And if you're going to have a good experiment, you're always going to have these variables in your experiment. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Make sure that you guys take a screenshot of this.